The world of polar bear is transforming to an alarming rate. Global warming is not a joke, as this biggest predator is the most affected by it. They are the new panda bear, very vulnerable to extinction. However, unlike the panda, this bear fights back as it tries to cope with the global warming. Let's find out, does it have a chance, or is their lineage going to be continued by growler bears? The polar bear, Ursus maritimus, aka sea bear. Their story begins thousands of years ago when these bears diverged from brown bears at around 150,000 years ago. These bears followed their cooling temperatures northwards. With each passing generation, their bodies slowly changing, adapting, becoming something entirely new. Their dark fur lightened to match the snow. Their bodies grew larger and their features became more specialized for life in the harshest environment on Earth. Today's polar bear is a masterpiece of evolution. Their massive frame, reaching up to 1,500 pounds, a perfect blend of power and efficiency. Their fur isn't actually white, it's transparent and hollow, trapping air for additional insulation while reflecting light to appear white. And beneath their thick white coat lies a layer of black skin that captures precious warmth from the sun. But it's what's under that skin that truly sets them apart. A 4-inch layer of blubber that wraps their entire body like nature's wetsuit. Their massive dinner plate-sized feet spread their weight across thin ice, while tiny bumps called papillae grip the slippery surface. Hidden beneath their fur are slightly webbed toes, a secret weapon that transforms them into powerful swimmers. These bears are truly at home in the water, capable of swimming hundreds of miles throughout freezing seas. They have an ability to enter a state of microsleep while swimming, letting half their brain rest while the other half keeps them moving through the waves. They can swim for days without rest, their bodies designed to slice through water with remarkable efficiency. Their nostrils close automatically when diving, and their eyes are adapted to see clearly both above and below the surface. These bears have developed an insatiable appetite for seal blubber, the fattiest, most calorie-rich food in their environment. A single seal can provide enough energy for weeks of survival. Their digestive system has evolved to process these incredibly fatty meals with remarkable efficiency, storing the energy in their own thick layer of blubber. But the story of the polar bear takes a darker turn when we look at their reproduction. A pregnant female must gain hundreds of pounds before winter, then retreat to a snow den where she remains without food or water for up to 8 months. Inside her den, she gives birth to tiny cubs, each weighing only about a pound, blind, helpless, and completely dependent on their mother's dwindling fat reserves for survival. Tragically, as global warming shrinks the Arctic ice, pregnant females are finding it harder to gain enough weight before denning. Some mothers desperate for food are forced to break hibernation early, exposing their vulnerable cubs to the harsh Arctic environment before they are ready. The result is devastating. Already a high infant mortality rates are climbing even higher. The polar bear's future hangs precariously in the balance. Their hunting grounds are literally melting beneath their feet. The sea ice they depend on for hunting seals is forming later and melting earlier each year. These magnificent predators, who survived the transformation from terrestrial dwellers to Arctic specialists over thousands of years, are facing a change too rapid for evolution to handle. As sea ice melts earlier and forms later each year, polar bears face longer periods without access to their primary hunting grounds. Many bears are experiencing extended periods of starvation. Their bodies was masterfully efficient at storing and using energy, pushed to dangerous limits. Scientific studies have documented bears losing up to 22% of their body mass during these incredibly long summer fasts. The drowning of polar bears, once a rare occurrence, has become more common as they are forced to swim longer distances between ice floes. Researchers have recorded bears swimming up to 100 miles in search of solid ice, many exhausting their energy reserves in these desperate journeys, in which requires more energy than simply walking. The loss of sea ice doesn't mean longer swims. It represents the disappearance of their primary hunting platforms, where they once waited patiently above seal-breathing holes to hunt and feed. Population numbers tell a sobering story. From an estimated 25,000 bears in the late 20th century, some subpopulations have declined by 40% in recent decades. The Western Hudson Bay population, one of the best studied groups, have decreased by 30% since 1987. Conservation status reports now list polar bears as vulnerable, with some subpopulation critically endangered. Scientists predict that without immediate action to address climate change, two-thirds of polar bears could disappear by 2050. The king of the Arctic, who mastered survival in Earth's most extreme environment, are being forced to face their greatest challenge yet: the rapidly transforming world shaped by human activity. Yet, in the face of these challenges, polar bears are fighting back. I call it the Arctic resistance. Scientists have discovered a fascinating phenomenon called walking hibernation, where bears can manually switch their metabolism to survive longer periods without food. This metabolic flexibility allowing them to reduce their energy consumption while remaining active, a crucial adaptation to longer ice-free periods. And there is an interesting sightings of large concentration of zombie polar bears in an abandoned Soviet town. I saw that in an Attenborough documentary called Asia. Really cool stuff. Coastal adaptation has become increasingly common, with bears learning to forage along shorelines and cliffs for bird eggs, berries, and even seaweeds. Some populations have become observed developing new hunting techniques, including new prey items like caribou and the remarkable ability to catch beluga whales in shallow waters, a behavior never seen before documented in polar bear history. And then, once a bear catches a beluga, they share like lion prides, like the Arctic royalty they are, because social behaviors are changing too. These traditionally solitary animals are now sometimes seen gathering in large groups near remaining food sources, developing complex social hierarchies and sharing resources in ways previously unknown, with some bears observed cooperating to hunt larger prey. Their adaptation to new terrain has been remarkable. Bears are learning to navigate rocky coastlines and tundra environments. Their massive paws, evolved for walking on ice, now adjusting to grip different surfaces. Some bears have been observed using tools such as blocks of ice or rocks to hunt new prey species, showing problem-solving abilities previously unknown in wild population, especially fish. In the wild, polar bears typically live 20 to 25 years, though some have reached 30 years or more. However, current studies suggest these lifespans may be shortening due to increased environmental stress and reduced access to traditional food sources. Despite these adaptations, the race against time continues. While polar bears are proving more adaptable than initially thought, maybe they are not that out of touch in terms of evolution from their brown cousins because their hybrids are fertile. So guys, if you've been following my channel from the beginning, I mentioned previously that I will exclusively talk about big cats in my first season of this channel. But as of lately, my channel has been on a downward spiral of flops after flops after flops. So I have to change my strategy. Just like the polar bear, this channel needs to evolve, and as of today, I'll be talking about all animals. And if you're still with me, thank you very much for your support, and as always, stay curious, stay wild, goodbye.